USA has been doing gain of function research on viruses. China has been doing gain of function research on viruses. This is not a conspiracy theory. USA didn't officially give China money to study gain of function for viruses. That in itself just does not make sense. First of all, viruses are actually just harming these cells in the laboratory. That's the simple matter. They're harming them. How are we going to end up saying that we've improved the virus at harming the cell? Anyway, let's get back to that later. First of all, why the hell are people thinking that China has created a bad virus? Why China? Why China? Why has China created a bad virus and let it out to everyone? Why is it China? If you watch the TV, you might notice that it seems the mainstream narrative now that America was funding gain of function research and China was. And that's just with America and China in question. So it's happening all over the world. Why did China, if there is a major new disease out there, why did China create it? Because the story started in China. The official scientific investigation occurred in China. So therefore, we think that China did it. This is just the majority of people at the moment, at least in Australia, America, and all that. So I'm sorry if this is just starkly saying that I think that it's just absolutely absurd that his baseline assumption is that the Chinese government created the virus, and then no one has actually. We're just apparently there's a pandemic, and people are like, actually, China created it. Why did you even think there's a pandemic anyway? You didn't just see all these significant increase in disease like at the apparent Spanish flu. We didn't notice that there was a story going around in China that there's all this extra coughing, or there's a new cough out and it's deadly. People, mind you, in cities with over 1 million people, they die every day of coughing. Terrible coughing conditions lead them to death, accompany them to death. So the fact that a new story got put out, this is where conspiracy theories find fertile ground. Okay, who started this? Who started yelling at everyone on social media saying there are people dying? They're not actually coming along with a group of people saying, look at all this significant number of people who just aren't passing positive for anything on a PCR. Look at the amount of them. Oh my God, this is the general rate of how many people don't pass positive for anything on this list of PCR results. And this is the rate at which these group of people in Wuhan are not passing positive for any of them. Oh my God, we think we have something new here. In a city over 1 million people, you can't just come out and say, oh, John got sick. Even if you're a GP, you're a practicing doctor, you can't just say, I've noticed extra people getting sick in my clinic. I don't think that even happened though. But the original investigation is in my book. The original, some people might say that's the alpha variant. Whatever. It's the original case, and there were 3 humans identified to collect specimens from. 3 humans who didn't pass positive in a city of I think 2 million people or more or less, a big city. Is this an extraordinary rate? I would bet no. Is it an extraordinary initiative to collect these people and it coincide with this some dude hammering into social media saying that there's a new disease out there and it's here. And a constant background noise that there's just so many people dying from during terrible conditions where their lungs are just effed. Okay? Boom. A story is born. A star is born. That seems to be what happened here. Viral pneumonia in China, a death rate of 15%. Pretty sure you can check that in my book. This was a study done in 2019 too, in China. Whether the virus causes the disease, well, I don't think it does ever, in any circumstances. All these viral pneumonias, they're looking at it upside down. So if the story starts in Wuhan, there's like 3 people, whatever, why did the microbe start there? Why are we all saying that? If there really is a microbe and someone created it, why wasn't it America who set the grounds and made all this stuff look sus? That if you're going to make something such a huge deal like that, you're going to put a lot of effort into it. There's going to be a huge plot. The world's not going to know what's going on, most likely. You're probably going to prepare the ground a very great deal. So why are people taking just the most basic picture of it and saying, look at what's happening, this is what's happening, obvious now. Okay, so why is the virus theory cooked? Why is it absolutely fried? Because we're talking about gain of function here for viruses, and not one time has anyone demonstrated that they've produced, transferred a disease that people believe a virus causes. Not once has anyone ever transferred it by simulating a realistic introduction of the virus to the animal, as in the way that it might occur or that it would occur in nature. It theoretically does. No one's ever done that. That is why, ultimately, this is just super cooked, and that we have to actually turn it right up and inject a significant load of these viruses, just boom, so that the organism is suddenly met with these viruses in such a large number, when theoretically in nature there's a cell gets infected and gives birth to all these viruses, and more cells then get infected and give birth to more viruses, and it just starts and steamrolls off like that, because the immune system just didn't have what it took. It didn't actually have it. It was well and viable, but it didn't have the new knowledge, the new sequence. So, or it was down and it couldn't learn the new sequence. These people, everyone in general, needs to make their mind up on this one, by the way. Which one is it? Because okay, maybe it can be both. Sometimes it's this one, sometimes it's that one. Oh, okay. So we can't expect that we have actually demonstrated contagion when we load the organism with an extraordinary amount of these viruses. It never occurs like that in nature. And then say, look, it got sick. That's contagion. If you think that's contagion, I think that's insanity. That is like scientific insanity. That's what I'd stick my stake in the ground. Why else is it cooked? Because imagine what's stopping a virus from going, there's a Delta variant out now of the COVID. What's stopping the virus from, if it's going to infect a cell and have 20 babies or 2,000 or 2 million or 2 trillion or billion? No one seems to really be talking about this either. One of those babies is going to be more deadly. Half of them probably are. And then when they have babies, half of those ones are going to be more deadly too, just by chance, because every one of them is going to be slightly different. The shape is going to be random, just thrown in a slightly different way. It's always even more effective now at getting these slowly evolving humans. Oh wait. Next minute, the whole world actually loses all of its multicellular organisms. All the cells actually die because existence becomes enlightened and viruses actually start doing what they apparently do. And there's no supernatural governance over this to stop the viruses from evolving in this direction. Oh, some people say, no, well, it'll kill all the animals and there'll be no viruses left. But remember, viruses don't plan for these things. They don't see them coming and then decide not to infect a cell because of this, okay? Or if they do, we need to change something with the theory, something major. That is the mystical closet in the mystical bone in the closet of the germ theory, as I've said it in my book. The human is just a big compilation of all these cells, slightly different shapes here for different functions. Apparently a virus came from a bat or even a lab. It turned in a certain direction and was suddenly fitting to get into the human epithelial airway cells. And we're all still here, even though nature behaves like that. You get what I'm saying? That's a point. All these variants, every time a virus has a baby, should just be new, fresh, ready to go. I'm going to kill the human. Yep, the human dies because it's just so deadly, and all these viruses just fly off in the air because it's just so deadly, and they just land on the next human and it breathes them in because it's just so deadly, and then they die because the whole world dies because there's so much death going on and there's so much mutation and wind blowing that all kinds of koalas and goannas are grabbing hold of these super deadly viruses that just happen to just fit because they happen to mutate in this way, It seems to me that it's obvious all this disease is due to chemical imbalance, and that there is stability ecosystems on the earth, and there's great destabilization events in the last 70 years, 50. No, yeah, 70, 80. I don't know how long you want to say what the most significant event is, but why this virus theory is cooked. I think we've pretty well gotten to the bottom of